Okay, welcome into a Friday edition of Beyond the Arc. It's a Brad Botkin Beyond the Arc Friday extravaganza. Bold predictions coming up at the end of the show. Maybe we'll give some early, what do you want to do, disappointments, season letdowns, folks, teams, people that have not lived up to expectations. Good morning, Mr. Botkin. Or I guess good afternoon on the East Coast. You're an East Coaster?
It's always morning for me. I was up late. Last night I was up late watching, speaking of disappointments, watching Tyrese Haliburton film, and it's gotten real ugly for him. But before we get started, I got to give a shout out to my guys, three guys, Ephraim, Dubby, and Schnare. I'm giving basketball lessons to these kids, and they wanted to hear their names on air. We might be talking about them someday. Good little players. I like Absolutely.
Who's the best of the three?
You know, the little guy, Ephraim, he's the smallest one, but he's got some real, you can just tell the coordination is there, very natural. He can ball. They're really good kids. I'm having fun with them.
All right. Well, if we're doing shout outs, I'm gonna shout out my kid Henry, who doesn't even play basketball. But whatever. I love him. He's my dude. He's my kid. He's my Henry. What's up? He got his first girlfriend, but now he wants to break up with her. I don't know.
Well, that's a huge shout.
It's a big shout.
That's a much bigger shout than basketball lessons.
She passed him a note. Do you like me? And he told me I don't do notes. So he just said to her, you talking romantic or friendship? And she said romantic. And he said, okay, I'm in.
Oh, he's already winning. He's already winning.
He did inform me not to worry that they might make out, but that's all because he doesn't want a bunch of little Henrys running around.
Oh, my God.
He's in sixth grade, bro. Yeah.
Oh, my God, these kids.
These kids, man. I'm not sure that he fully. Maybe I don't know. Okay, let's do this. Let's consummate this show with a little Warriors Lakers conversation here. So I don't know where you came down, and I want to know. I had the Lakers on the outside of the play-in in my preseason predictions, and the Warriors just on the inside. John Gonzalez, who I do this with 3 days a week, did it the other direction. He had the Lakers in and the Warriors out. Right now, despite what happened last night, I was at that Lakers game against the Magic. These are two of the best three teams, at least by record, in the Western Conference. Are you buying one of these more than – because I have one that I believe in more than the other, but, Brad, they've both been really impressive, and they deserve some credit.
Yeah, they've been terrific. The reason I had – and a lot of people, Bill, you and I were not alone in our negativity toward the Lakers, but it all stemmed from – and I think I speak for both of us here – it all stemmed from – a lack of health, or what we believe to be an unsustainable model with LeBron and AD playing the amount of games they did last year. But if they are going to be healthy, again, we're going to keep saying this all year on shows like this and everything that we do, that the Lakers are really good. They are good. It's just until they go out. But they are good. The emergence of Dalton Connect gives them a legitimate spacer, and he can do a lot more than shoot. That's a very impressive rookie.
He's a really good basketball player.
He's really good. I don't do a lot of draft work, and so I watch these guys a little bit, but I rely on the people that do all the work. Everybody said this is a huge drop to get. I think they got him at 17?
17.
Yeah, and it's like, I knew he could shoot, and I thought maybe this is going to be a pretty good deal, but he's a lot more than a shooter, size, athletic.
He's athletic. He's an athlete.
Yeah, yep. So I like Austin Reeves is terrific. He's got to be on one of the best bargain contracts in the league.
JJ Redick turns out to be, I think, a very grumpy but very, very good coach, which was it appears so question mark for me.
Early on set a tone, took D'Angelo Russell out of the starting lineup. And AD, I mean, this all centers on how incredible LeBron and AD are still playing. Okay, and AD especially, he's got a real case for MVP right now. I think
last night didn't help. You're right. He missed 2 free throws. I was at that game.
Yeah, but I mean, dude,
I know it's a small sample size.
Small. He had 39 and 12.
It was amazing. I know, but he didn't. I'm just saying.
You got to make it. You got
to close. You got to make the free throws.
You got to make one of the free throws. But to get the roundabout way to your question, who do I believe in more? I just have to lean on. I just don't think that they'll stay healthy long enough. So I still think the Warriors, because of their depth,
And you're a Warriors guy.
They're a better
I agree.
bet. They're a better bet regular season wise. But I'm gonna couch this. If the Lakers go into the playoffs healthy, I would be more afraid of playing the Lakers than I would the Warriors.
So let me double down on your perspective, because when we did these preseason predictions, which are hard to do, I also downgraded Phoenix pretty significantly. And I can't remember if I put them at 6 or 7, but it was because I was trying to factor in the likelihood that between Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, one or both of them would miss time, because we've seen that, now not for KD so much last year, but we've seen that, right? Those guys have missed time. And already Kevin Durant is hurt, and they're a different team when he doesn't play.
Beal's been out too. Yeah, they've fallen off.
Right. But without Kevin Durant, they are not. They were a top team in the Western Conference with Kevin Durant, and they're not without him. Yeah. That hasn't happened for the Lakers yet, and maybe it won't. But to your point, just the odds that LeBron at 40, and I meant to look. I think these guys, because I was there, but I didn't really pay attention to the box score. I think they each played 36, 37, 38 minutes last night.
Yeah.
So if you're playing a lot of minutes, and LeBron is point LeBron, and Anthony Davis is Anthony Davis, maybe they can be healthy. But there is, you're right, this sort of looming worry that at least one of them are going to miss some significant time. And if that happens, the Lakers, I think, go the way of the Suns. They're not good enough without both Anthony Davis and LeBron James on the floor, even though they have been really impressive in a way I did not anticipate this year. They are talented.
I agree. I got to say, though, that if Anthony Davis is playing like this, I don't think LeBron can sustain them if Anthony Davis goes out. If Anthony Davis if LeBron misses some time, if Davis is going to play like this, and certainly with LeBron on the floor, it becomes an easier challenge for him. But he's just been incredible, and so I think he can sustain them defensively with the help of Connect and Austin Reeves and all these kind of nice little pieces they have on the periphery. I think the Lakers can maintain a 10-game absence from LeBron. I also have to say, I really push back, and I'm sure all the scientist nerds are gonna tell me that
where are we going?
The data supports it and everything. I just don't buy. I just don't buy this whole. I know Steve Kerr came out the other day and he was talking about how the players have to cover more ground now. There's more space on the floor, and the athletes are better. So that's what. By and large, there's some injuries of wear and tear, but some guys are just LeBron is a machine.
LeBron is a machine. But AD is not. Look, I'm with him.
I'm more concerned. But I'm not concerned. But I guess what I'm saying is I'm not concerned about AD because he played 38 minutes and he'd be better. I wouldn't be concerned if he played 34. I just, if he's going to get hurt, he's going to get hurt. I don't believe in that build up so much. I've played a lot of sports in my life, and it's just, I think it's very.
I mean, I played sports too, but I don't know it's the same. Maybe you elevated higher.
I'm telling you, it's over a couple of minutes. It's overrated.
I don't. All right, look, I'm not a scientist, but I do think that wear and tear matters, and it's early in the year, and I worry about Anthony Davis. All right, let's hit the Warriors real quick before we hit some of these other topics. So there's a lot to unpack here. You're a Warriors guy. I'm all in. And the thing that I find really interesting and significant, and I think I talked with John about this the other day, but maybe I just talked socially with John and Aaron off the air, is in every championship that the Warriors have won, they have been a top 5 defensively rated team. They have been an outstanding defensive team. And in some of the championships that they did not win, they weren't. They sort of let that go a little bit. The one exception is the championship they should have won when they were up 3-1 and Draymond kicked LeBron and the collapse happened in 2016. They have lots of depth. Buddy Hield's been great. We can talk about all these guys. Nice to see Andrew Wiggins playing well. Steph Curry is Steph Curry. They don't really miss Klay Thompson on offense. They are outstanding so far defensively, and I think that's a huge part for me of why I'm in. The depth, the defense, and the fact that Steph Curry now has people around him. I'm not saying I'm going to book my hotel for June at my favorite spot in San Francisco for the finals, but I don't think it's outrageous to think they can be one of the teams in the mix to get there.
It's not outrageous at all. I don't think it's outrageous to think that the Lakers can either. The Nuggets, who took them out last year, the Nuggets have fallen off, the Timberwolves have fallen off, and sure, there's some teams that have come up. But again, if they're going to be healthy, and again, this, LeBron and Steph and Kevin Durant have fooled us into thinking that that guys are going to continue to be awesome late into their 30s. Hell, LeBron even into his 40s. Like, trail-offs happen. It's happening to Damian Lillard. It's happening to Chris Middleton. We're starting to see it with Jimmy Butler. Like, there's most guys, that's the way it goes. And so you got to be worried about a Steph injury too. You got to be worried about a Draymond injury too. And so I think that the Warriors, to some degree, I mean, as much depth as they have, they're not going anywhere if Steph misses real time. And I don't think they're going anywhere if Draymond misses real good time. He's been unbelievable defensively. I do think on the periphery, they have the depth to absorb, the aches and the bang-ups that happen throughout the course of a season. I'm only looking at, and I do this with everything. I hate forecasting. I did it with my Lakers pick. I looked ahead and tried to speculate.
I love forecasting.
Yeah, I like to go on what I'm looking at. Circle back to Wembanyama shooting, but it's what I'm looking at.
We'll get to it later.
Okay, but what I see right now is both these teams are incredible. If you're going to change a variable for me down the road and somebody gets hurt, then I'll change. But right now, I wouldn't want to play either one of these teams. The only team that I would really put above either of them and definitively say that's a better team in the Western Conference is Oklahoma City.
All right, I'm with you. I'm going to be in the Bay in a couple weeks and spend some time with that team and try to spend some time with Jerry Stackhouse and do a story on the huge impact he's had defensively.
Kurt's about Stackhouse.
Yeah. So I went to, what game did I see? I went to Warriors Clippers the other day, and he was raving about Stackhouse, and it was so interesting. I thought I'm going to go up there and spend some time with Jerry and just sort of get into that. So we'll be doing lots of Warriors talk going forward. Let's do this. I have a theory I have a interpretation that worries me about Joel Embiid that is beyond some of the on-the-court stuff I want to get into, and we've got disappointment so far this year, including Brad's theory on what is wrong with the Knicks. All of that coming up next year on Beyond the Arc. All right, welcome back into Beyond the Arc. He's Brad Botkin. I'm Bill Ryder. Hit the like button, leave a comment on something we said, go over to our YouTube channel, turn on notifications. There's a little bell there to tell you when we're live. Wherever you get your podcast, please subscribe and give us a 5-star review. So I don't know where you come down on this, but I am a big believer that the things off the court matter. Chemistry, attitude, all those things are significant. Probably, Brad, because for years I've had GMs and former players tell me that it's significant. And the people who actually do projections right are those folks who take their experiences and say, look, these guys don't get along, or this coach and this star aren't in a good spot. I have a little bit of an alarm bell in Philly for Joel Embiid's I want to find the snitch comment. Did you see this? So a report came out from Shams that there was a team meeting and Tyrese Maxey, and I'm told, and it was reported elsewhere, like not in a bad way, in a sort of, hey, bro, you got to be on time kind of a situation with Embiid, asked Embiid to be a better leader. And Embiid's response is, I'm going to find the snitch, and that's some bull snap, I think was the word. Like, I get it, but I would rather Embiid just be focused on basketball and talking about winning and not out there publicly talking about a witch hunt he wants to conduct to go get some dude to told on him. Oh, that's not the issue.
You're hitting a sweet spot for me. I mean, these guys are so dramatic. It's unbelievable what NBA locker room stuff turns into with grown men. It's really something. Joel Embiid has been on this kind of crusade really all offseason. He started whining about how people were – early on there was reporting that he was hearing the perception that people thought he wasn't playing when he could be playing. And he says,
right,
with everything that I've done for this organization, it's like, well, you took him to the second round. And he said, I risked life and limb going out there playing. It's like these guys loved it. I love it when the players are always talking brothers. Everyone's there. It's a brotherhood.
I roll my eyes.
They act like they're going to Vietnam together. They're playing basketball. It's unbelievable the amount of drama that they put into all this stuff. And now Joel Embiid is talking like he's risking life and limb because he went out. It's like, dude, you play with an injury. You're not perfect. You're not risking death. Get over it. And he tries to attack the press. Now, the one thing that did happen with the reporter, when the reporter brought up his deceased brother. And
you can't do that. That's an outlier. By the way, your guy Draymond Green goes after the press too, and I'm over it. Like, I like Dre, but I don't need to hear the media against me didn't play. Like, Kevin Durant's done this in his career. Get over it.
I agree with that, but the whining is, if you want to like kind of spar with the, I'm kind of like Kevin Durant spars with the media, and it's sort of like there's a transparency to it that's halfway interesting. Joel Embiid is just a baby. He's a baby about acting like he's some sort of war hero when he goes and he's doing the same thing right now instead of focusing on what is the nut of this issue, which is the locker room, the start, the leadership, all these things. And he says,
finding chemistry together. Yeah.
The snitch. And it's so childish. And it starts with the way he flops on the floor and everything. It's just childish. And the Sixers are not in a good place, and Embiid is not helping. And I wouldn't be surprised if this thing continues to go south. We've talked about Giannis in through this lens. Embiid's going to ask out. Embiid's going to say, I've done my time here. I've never been – I can already see it. I haven't been respected. When Ben Simmons tanked, I stuck around. I stuck around through Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris and all these things, and all I do is catch hell. Boo-hoo. I want out of here. I
haven't heard that, but I'll ask around. That's an interesting – okay, all right, so Philly, obviously very disappointing. We're going to hit a few disappointments this year. I'm just going to set one up because you went – I was at the Lakers game last night, and I looked down – and I had 131 text messages from you and Aaron Larsoul about this very topic. You were very passionate. Obviously, we had a big trade in the offseason that sent Karl Anthony Towns to the New York Knicks, and there were guys, Julius Randle being the main one, who went to the Timberwolves, and they both been disappointing. And I think the Knicks have been they're really good offensively, but they have not been a top-tier team. Like, Cleveland has sort of ascended to that position we thought maybe the Knicks would, which is, maybe – in the tier just below the Thunder and the Celtics. And you have a theory about you have a perspective on this involving Cat.
Well, I'm certainly not alone in this. Their defense has fallen off, and we thought this is the team that can keep up with Boston because of their wing stability and their ability to, with Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby and Josh Hart. It's like, wow, this is going to be a really good defense. But the hole in it has been Karl Anthony Towns, and the numbers are staggering. Like, on and off the court, he's making like 6 points difference in the wrong direction. Guys are shooting at the rim when he's in the game against the Knicks almost 15% better when he's in the game as opposed to when he goes. It's something like 70% when he's in the game, and it goes through to like 55% when he's not. And it's a problem. And so what is so interesting is that it's been a while since we've seen it with guards like a James Harden or a Luka Doncic, but it's been a while since I've seen, maybe never, where a center has this wide of a spectrum of performance where you literally could make a case that he has been the most valuable player offensively and the least valuable defensive player. It's really
he misses having Rudy Gobert next to him. I mean, it's such a different reality.
He hasn't played. That's right.
And responsibility
on the text. Why are the Timberwolves not as good if they just kind of swap out Randle and Towns? And that's a fair question. But from the Knicks side, Towns is now having to guard opposing centers the whole game. He got the lean on Rudy Gobert. There were places to hide in Minnesota, and I got to tell you. Towns can bang. He can. But when he has to do all of the, when do I come up on the pick and roll and when do I drop back to protect the rim and all the little nuances of interior paint coverage, and he has to be the guy banging with the opposing big all game and not once in a while. We saw him when they hide Rudy Gobert and he would guard Jokic against Denver, but all the time. You're the center. I just don't think he's cut out for that. I still think the Knicks can be a fine defensive team, particularly when Mitchell Robinson comes back. Maybe they can start running those two big lineups and with the perimeter defenders. But, it's been a huge, huge spectrum of performance on the two ends of the court for Towns.
Let me give you a stat and then overreact to it in a way that reinforces something I've always believed that doesn't mean it's true. Second in offensive rating this year at the Knicks, 21st in defense. I mean, they're bad. They are poor defensively. I have always thought, for a variety of reasons, including the ones you hit on, and there's more, that Karl Anthony Towns was the most overrated player in the game or the most problematic, talented player. I'm not a big Cat guy. I recognize his talent. I recognize his skill. I think he's one of these guys who's obviously massively capable and is only going to succeed in very particular situations and very particular setups. And I think some of that, by the way, is effort and attitude. I do buy into the idea, because I've been told this from people, that there's just reasonable doubt about how he affects a culture, his effort day in and day out, his willingness to do and work at the things that he's not as good at. I could be wrong. I'm here for it. I guess I thought maybe the Knicks would be one of the places like Minnesota at the end where it would work, where it would be okay, where he'd be surrounded by a culture and a defensive effort where it would mask some of his problems off and on the floor. I think there's a world, Brad, where it just doesn't work. They need to get healthy, and you know, to Mitchell Robinson. I do think there's a world where it just doesn't work with Karl Anthony Towns with the Knicks, because unlike a lot of, what is he, a top 20 player, whatever he is, he's not a guy that I think you can fit into 15 or 18 or 25 places, and he's a net positive. I think the number of places where that's true for him is much smaller than most guys at his talent level.
I agree with you, and it's because of the defense. When he's asked for, a stretch shooting big fits in any offense in the NBA, but defensively he has to be put in very particular situations to survive. And the off court, the stuff, you're certainly not alone in the sort of intangible take that he just isn't a winning player. You know, he's so talented. You group him into these guys like LaMelo Ball or Trae Young, who are just
Trae Young's a good one.
Extraordinary offensive talents. But if they're the best player on your team, you've got all kinds of problems in terms of just the sturdiness of your team, the guts of your team. And I think a lot of the optimism that surrounded Towns in New York is that he didn't have to be I think we've all given up that he can be your franchise player, but we turned that over to Jalen Brunson. And the reason Minnesota succeeded is because Anthony Edwards supplanted him as that. And so we all had this hope that he would become this awesome number 2 guy, and he has been. The defense has to get better, plain and simple.
Let me put a bow on it this way and then move on to some other disappointments. Every time big news happens, I will try to talk to 20 GMs, and I'll talk to 3 to 10, depending on how many get back to me in a timely way. And there are two times where major news in the last few years has happened, and the majority of people I talk to, like a resounding number of the people that I visit with on background or off the record or anonymously, have gone aggressively against the narrative. They've been counter-narrative to what everyone thought. The first was, whatever we think now, when Damian Lillard got traded to the Milwaukee Bucks, most people thought that was going to work and be really amazing. And I was one of them. And I was sort of surprised how many people I talked to in front offices at high-level jobs were very skeptical that it was going to be successful. And the same thing happened with Karl Anthony Towns. When that trade went down, I was just surprised by how many voices I was talking to were skeptical that Cat to the Knicks was going to put the Knicks over the top. Doesn't mean it'll go the way that it's gone for Lillard in Milwaukee. Maybe all these guys are wrong, but there's definitely a lot of people out there who are skeptical and aren't as surprised maybe as we are in the disappointment of the Knicks. Who's another? I've got a few, but I don't want to step on some of your stuff. Who's another player, team, whatever, GM, whatever, that's let you down early in the season?
Oh boy, we were talking about Tyrese Haliburton.
That's on my list. He's on my list.
He's like 28% from 3. I think he's.
What is going on?
Kevin O'Connor reported earlier in the year that there was some talk of his back flaring up, that it really wasn't the hamstring issue, and now there's all these sort of theories going around social media, because if you look at his road home splits, they're like Karl Anthony Towns' offense and defense. They're crazy, the discrepancy. And I got to point out, he hasn't been like awesome at home, but he's been much better than on the road.
Interesting.
He had one big game, and when you have small sample sizes, one big game sort of throws everything. He had 35, I think, against the Knicks at home. He hasn't been awesome at home, but he has been better. But there's this theory going around that because his back is flaring up, that I guess when he's on the plane and sleeping in hotel beds, that his back's not in as good a condition as when he's on the road. And look, bad backs, they flare up, they can get ugly, and They can affect a lot of things. I watched a lot of Tyrese Haliburton film last night, and he looks like he's moving the same to me. He just doesn't seem like he's looking for his shot the same way. He's not that guy out there that's like, I'm the best player on the floor. I'm hunting shots. I'm finding all these passes in cracks and seams that nobody else sees. And I'm seeing more flashes of that stuff than the guy who was doing that for 40 minutes a night last year. He just doesn't look as confident. And that could perhaps stem from the back. The road home splits, I don't know. Either way, at the end of the day, we were ready to anoint this guy. I mean, I was arguing he should have been getting more minutes on the Olympic team. We're ready to anoint this guy as like a first, second NBA guy.
He was at that level. He was at that level up until January.
Yeah.
Last year.
So to be shooting 28%, averaging whatever he's averaging, 15 points a game. He's not even, 8 assists for him. Assists are the most overrated. We can do a whole segment on how overrated assists are. But whatever his 8 assists are really probably 5. He passes it over to Ben Mathurin, and then he takes 7 dribbles and cooks his guy, and he gets the assist. Assists are so stupid. So he's down from like 11 or 12 to 8. That really means 6. Tyrese Haliburton has been extremely disappointing.
By the way, people are commenting on the live part of the show we're doing here on YouTube. Get in there. Thank you, Isaac. We'll throw some of these up for you. Can I just – some of these are self-explanatory, but can I throw the Mavericks up there? I thought they would regress a little bit. I didn't think they were going to regress like this. And they looked mediocre and problematic before this Luka Doncic injury that's going to sideline him for a little bit. It's not sky is falling time the way it is for Philly and the way it felt like it was for the Bucks before they got on this easy run of games, and they've been able to stack up some wins, and I think they'll stack up some more. But this Dallas team that was in the finals last year, that was incredible until they ran into that buzzsaw that is and was the Celtics, they look like a shell of them. They look like a shell of themselves as a team the way that Tyrese Haliburton does compared to his play last year at this point. Well,
and if we're going to stick on disappointments, Luka Doncic, he's shooting like 32%. I think he's low 40s. He's not been efficient. He has been a doormat defensively, almost embarrassing. Actually, I'll take the almost out of that. And if you look at last night, I was doing some research. If you look at shooters in the league who are taking at least 8 3-pointers a game, he's like, I think the 3rd worst guy. My boy Wemby is like,
that's a good stat.
Come
on. Stop with the Wemby slander.
These are just facts. I'm telling you, if you're taking over 8 threes a game, which means you are a voluminous shooter, yep. If that means you think you're a good 3-point shooter and your team does, Luka Doncic, Trae Young is up there. He's only at 35%, which I've been on the Trae Young is not a good 3-point shooter train for years, and it's all coming to fruition. Victor Wembanyama is 33.9, and Luka is like 32, and they're
Let me ask you this: do you think it's possible that Luka's issues stem from playing over the summer and trying to carry a basketball team by himself?
Well, he's never been a fantastic 3-point shooter. He's been a volume shooter. If you look at all of his percentages,
he's also been a winning player, right? Like that's the other. Like whatever.
He's not.
He's been inefficient. You've seen these games where he's inefficient, but if you watch the game, he hits big shots. He's critical in big moments.
You're not going to hear me talking about, Luka in the Towns ilk, where he's definitely a winning player.
He's a winning player.
I'm looking in a small sample why Dallas hasn't been quite – he's missing a lot of shots. I don't think he'll keep missing shots. He's never been a 39% 3-point shooter, but you're right. He does have that gravity, that sort of that sense that he's going to make the shots that matter. And his 34% is worth a lot more than a typical 34%. But at some point, missed shot. We have enabled a lot of couch basketball coach in our current social media culture, and everybody loves to talk about all the terminology. And this guy ran a Chicago cut, and this guy's running flex action. They all want to sound like Pat Riley. The bottom line some of the time here is you got to make shots. And Luka Doncic hasn't made enough shots, certainly not to make up for his defensive inadequacies. And that's really been the bottom line for the Mavericks. Luka Doncic has to be extraordinary on that team. He has to be extraordinary. And I think he will be. But if you're looking for small sample, why they've been disappointed in the start, he's been a very inefficient player to start.
All right, we are going to come back here in a second, and we're going to do the segment Brad's bold predictions that brought you the take that Wemby sucks a couple weeks ago, which I know Brad's gotten grief for, but I haven't been down with Brad to be able to do that because I was off last Friday getting a colonoscopy, which was about as unpleasant. Oh, yeah, about as unpleasant as criticizing Wembanyama turned out to be. So I'm going to give Brad a hard time. Brad's got some bold predictions. We'll also do Team of the Night. All that's coming up next here on Beyond the Arc.
There are some things in life that you can't quite explain.
An extraordinary story.
Maybe it sounds flawless, looks effortless, or makes you feel like a part of history.
The first ever goal for BSC.
And when all of those phenomenons come together, it's perfect. Pitch perfect.
All right, welcome back into the show. Whoever Brad goes after, you might want to bet on him to score 50. And then that was such great timing, dude. Did John give you a hard time last week? I did not watch the show. I was under. I was a little groggy.
He did. And I'm letting you guys run with this Wemby sucks thing. Wemby does not suck. But I'm more than happy to stay on the Wemby is not a great shooter train and shouldn't be shooting quite as much as he is. But I digress.
You did not say. You never said Wemby sucks. I just found it funny to mischaracterize your.
And then he goes for 50. No, it's true. Takes a lot of shots and does a lot of dribbling. You can't run an offense through a 20% three-point shooter. He's a turnover machine because he tries to do a little bit too much with the ball. Because we did this with Kristaps Porzingis. He was a unicorn. We've never seen anybody for his size that can shoot like that can dribble, that can do all these things. I think Wemby needs to be a number 2. I really do. I don't think you can run your offense through him. Wemby is already the best defensive player in the league, and he's going to be a 20-point scorer and a big rebounder offensively on sheer size and athlete. He's going to be great. He already is great. But relative to the hype, I don't know if he's going to be a guy that you can actually build your offense around. I think that the hype is more to we've never seen anybody do this thing with size. And we get enamored with the fact that they could, and we don't stop to think that they should.
You can hear me being pissed off as you speak, by the way. Just be like, oh, my God.
You know, what I would say is if
we disagree.
That is, I still don't – in a randomized setting, I think obviously Wembanyama can be dominant offensively. But when I think of somebody that you can run – I generally think of somebody that you can just run high pick and roll with, or you can throw the ball to in the post and build your offense around one of those two assets. And I honestly don't right now. I'm not going to project too far, but I just –
What do you mean you can't project too far? That's why you draft people. You don't draft them. You don't draft them to be good on day 4.
Not a GM.
I mean, right now. No, it's a cop-out.
Wemby's got to live and dominate in the cracks with offensive rebounds and a weird switch. And
he's going to be –
He's going to be awesome. He already is awesome.
I'm going to go on a limb. He could be a number 1. I've forgotten that you said it. All right. It's a great – I love it. I do want to get your other bold predictions, though. I'm ready. I'm going to sit back, get comfortable. Brad's bold predictions.
Okay. 1, the Sixers are going to be a play-in team. And only because the East is trash. I'm trying to do this off the top of my head right now. I think, if Aaron could check this, I think there are 13 teams in the West that are at least 500. That's what I'm trying to count here on my head. And
yes, there are 11, but the Spurs are really close to being 12 in the West.
The Spurs are not 500?
No, they're 7 and 8.
Okay. And
they lost the other night, a game they should have won or a close game, and when they were 7.
I bet you there's
Utah
only
or somebody.
4 in the East. 4. I bet you the 5th seed team, which I think is Miami right now.
There are 4. It's Orlando after last night's dramatic win against the Lakers.
Okay, so
Miami are the 5 seed at 6 and 7.
Okay, so the East is garbage, and because of that, the Sixers are going to end up.
The Spurs are 8 and 8. Oh, I'm told the Spurs are 8 and 8.
I knew it. I'm pretty sure 13 teams. Okay, but anyways, Sixers are going to get in to the play-in. That's where they're going to be, and they're going to have to muscle their way through to end up playing Boston or Cleveland in the first round, and they're going to lose in the first round. And all summer, we're going to talk about the Joel Embiid trade, and here's why.
Okay.
Paul George is going to get an absolute free pass on this because of all the Embiid drama, and Maxi's hurt, and he got this sort of built-in escape clause in his contract that you don't have to be the guy. We're going to pay you $212 million at 35 years old in March, but you only have to be this third guy. That's actually not true because Embiid's going to miss a significant chunk of time, and Paul George has to be really good for them to not be a play-in team. And he's been terrible. Paul George has been terrible. You're getting paid $212 million a year. And again, let's not complicate this with like all these things that guys do, and they stress the defense, and he's a two-way guy, and all these buzz terms. He ain't making shots. If you're making, he's scored over 18 points once since he's played for Philadelphia. One time. That ain't enough.
You're preaching to the choir. I think PG is not as reliable a superstar as my colleague John Gonzalez.
Those guys are there, and he's the third guy. He's an easy fit on any team.
He's also older. He's not. I mean,
I'm telling you, yes, 35 in March, 200, and he just hasn't been good. And so because of that, Embiid's they got like 15 more back-to-backs. He's gonna miss at least 15 more games.
At this point, saying they're gonna make the play-in is theoretically bold. Well, they're only, I think, 3.5 games behind whatever.
The bottom of the East is a dumpster.
All right.
But yeah, they're going to do that. And the other one I would say is, and this is going back on me. I said the wrong thing. I told you I don't do a lot of draft work. I rely on the people.
I don't either.
When the Hornets picked Brandon Miller over Scoot Henderson, I laughed. I said, oh, my God, they're doing the fit thing that the Warriors did with James Wiseman. We need a big. When the Warriors could have had LaMelo Ball. Right? And they said, oh, no, we need the fit. We need the big. James Wiseman, we take him. Oh, my God. And now the Hornets, I thought had made another mistake. We have LaMelo Ball. We can't take Scoot Henderson for a fit reason. Brandon Miller is just worlds better than Scoot Henderson. And I'll go so far as to say, and I picked Scoot for Rookie of the Year. I don't think Scoot Henderson is ever going to be a legitimate starter in the NBA. He may end up starting because he plays for a dog team, but
he's washed already.
Not washed, but he is not going to be a legitimate starter in the league. I'm seeing like who's my ceiling. I mean, I think Tyus Jones is better than him, but some guy that maybe he can be a good bench player.
Okay,
no,
that's bold.
He's not a good player. Scoot Henderson's not a good player.
All right, before we sign off for the weekend, you hit me with your – I'll go team of the night first because I watched I was at one game, and it took me 4 hours to get to crypto and 12 hours to get back, basically, is what it felt like in LA traffic. I'll go the Orlando Magic. They are, without their best player, very quietly battling. You're right, it's a mediocre Eastern Conference. They're just over 500, but we knew how good they were defensively. Hit that huge shot last night, got a little help from AD missing the free throws. But they battled and they stayed in there despite what was otherwise an amazing Anthony Davis individual performance. So I'll go the Orlando Magic team of the night.
I love the Magic, Bill. It's a
They're
great
good.
Call. It's a great call. And listen, they were awesome when they had Banchero, and when he went out, I mean, we've always questioned this team.
I thought, right?
And they were cooked. They lost 4 straight right when he went out. Since then, Franz Wagner has gotten so aggressive. He's taken over 21 shots in I think 5 of his last 6 games. He's had over 31 points in 4 of his last 6. He's putting the pedal down because he knows they have no other option. And we're seeing the three-point shooting is always going to be a swing skill for him. He's still like, I think 33%, 34%, something like that. He hit the big one last night. But he's really good. He is slithery. He's very difficult to stay in front of one-on-one. And if you look at the way they defend, Jalen Suggs has emerged as a legitimate number 3 guy. Jonathan Isaac.
He had a good game last night.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. When Banchero comes back, if Wagner keeps this kind of aggressiveness.
Which I think he can. Like, it could be a blessing in disguise that Banchero's out because sometimes you see secondary guys have to carry a team, and it kind of elevates their confidence, and they just get these minutes when they're the number 1, and it speeds up that process.
He's really good. And
he's good.
The Magic run that two big lineup with him and Banchero as virtual point guards. Those are the guys initiating their offense much of the time. They can definitely coexist. Well, Wagner's doing what guys like Paul George need to do when their star is out, and he's stepping up. The Magic defend. They're young, and to what you talked about earlier, Bill. What I really like is the off court, how teams get along, the locker room. The Magic you can tell they like playing with each other.
That's the word, yeah.
Energetic. They probably
I haven't been around him much, but
They
yeah, you
probably
can
go to
tell
dinner together.
last night.
My
They like
guess
each
is
other.
the Magic go to dinner together, which, it's like, families who eat dinner together stay together. Like they just seem to get along. And I think that's a really, really good team. And they're going to be even better in that Eastern Conference. A top 4 seed, absolutely.
All right, we'll close it out with your team of the night.
Wolves, I guess. I mean, that's the boo-hoo is the Wolves. I think we were talking about this through the Karl Anthony Towns lens, but if you think that Towns doesn't fit on New York, I'll raise you the Randall fit in Minnesota. The spacing sucks. You don't have
him and Gobert.
Yeah,
some of that
you don't have to
body
defend 4 or 5
language.
guys. Really, when McDaniel's on the court, you don't have to defend 3 of the 5 guys. And so it's forcing Anthony Edwards into all kinds of three-point shots. He's making them at like a 43% clip or something. I mean, it's pretty good. I don't think it's going to continue, though. It's too many threes for a guy who needs to dominate the game downhill. And I just don't think they fit. And the defense hasn't been good enough to make up for it. It's still top 10, but last year it was like all world. And it made up for a more limited offense. It's not going to happen, I don't think, in Minnesota with the swap out and the spacing loss of Randall for Towns.
All right, we have 3 shows next week. We're going to be dark, I think, Thursday, Friday for the holidays, so you can all enjoy your turkey and your stuffing and your cranberry sauce and whatever else you got. He is Brad Botkin. I am Bill Ryder. Thank you for listening to Beyond the Arc. Appreciate you very much, and we'll see you back next year on Monday.